my name's April Sawtelle and welcome to my channel. Today what I'm going to be doing, I just wanted to show you how I did the process to a video I had put out a while back. So I had made an easy quilt top. It was an easy Halloween quilt top. I want to show you how I did put that whole quilt top together, but now I want to show you the afterthought of what I had done after I had made it. I decided I wanted to do some applique on it. I have done another video at the little ghost applique, but I didn't show you how I did this one. So I want to show you that process. So sorry for the backtracking, but I hope you enjoy this. A couple of pieces here that are going to work well for my back end. And I have got some batting here. I've got a couple of rulers I'm going to use. And I've also got a rotary cutter. I use either baste and spray or pins. You can use either or. I probably will use the pins, but we'll see as we go. And I will be using my iron. So let me show you how we're going to do this. So what I've done here, I've just laid out my batten. I've got a piece of painter's tape up at the top there, just holding it down so I can just pull it taut a little bit here. I'm going to smooth this out. And now I'm just going to lay down my backen. My backen's going to go face up. I'm going to trim all of this down after I get this all situated. So it doesn't matter what angle I'm really kind of going in at the moment. I just want it to fit on that batten. I'm going to want to smooth this right out nicely. You're going to want to have your batten be a little bit bigger than your backen. That way when you're trimming this down, you're sure to cover all of it. Now you're just going to want to take your top and you're going to want to lay it right on top of all of this. And we're going to do the same thing. You're just going to smooth it out. Lay nice and flat. And then what we're going to do, you just want to make sure your whole quilt is covered. You can do this on a smaller surface. It doesn't have to fit the quilt. On this demonstration, this quilt does not fit my countertop. So I do have overhang down here, but that's okay because as I'm pinning, I will slide that to the front as I go. What you want to do, you either want to use your baste and spray or you want to start pinning. I'm going to pin. Just take a few pins, spread them right out. And I always just start right in the center. And you're going to stick your pin down in and you're going to grab all the way down to your mat. You want to make sure you've got all 3 layers in there. So you pin that. And I usually just go like a fist or hand length away from my pin. What I'll do is I'll just go a few down and then I'll start going across. Once the quilt is secure with the pins, then you can start maneuvering it all around your counter. Then you can push it forward or backward. This is what my quilt looks like with all the pins in it. So now I'm just going to use my big ruler and I'm just going to square this up. I want to get rid of all of this extra batten and back in here. And just square up that top as well so it's all nice and straight. And just work your way all the way around your quilt. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to cut all my corners off and I'm going to cut everything right around that corner. I'm going to take a pretty good chunk out of that without going into my seam. Now I'm just going to reach my hand into the hole that I've left here. I'm going to go right down into a corner and I'm going to pull out every corner. Probably easier if you just shake it. And you want to get these seams. You want to pull these seams up so they're nice and straight. You might even have to roll them in your fingers a little bit and just go all the way around doing that. Seam to be right directly on the edge. And I also want this all to lay nice and flat. I'm gonna take this is my opening. I'm just gonna take and I'm gonna fold this in And I'm going to fold my fabric right over it. And I'm going to stick a couple of pins in here. What I'm going to do now is just do a top stitch all the way around the entire quilt to seal that opening in where these pins are. I'm going to take out the pins as I go. All I'm going to do now, I'm just going to make a spider web on this quilt, and I'm just going to go from corner to corner on all of the corners, and then I'm just going to do a line across. That'll give me 6 lines to start my web. I'm going to do a very squiggly line. Now I'm coming to this next corner, so I'll bring it all the way to the edge. And I'll cut my thread right here. I'm just going to spin my quilt around, and I'm going to just come right into the center point. And I'm going to just go right across to the other side. Go ahead now, and I'm going to give it one more straight stitch between this other side. I'm not measuring. I'm just gonna, I can see where this is, and I'm just gonna just look at it and go with that. I started on a line I'm at the center, and I'm gonna just start connecting. I'm using my regular foot and my regular stitch, and I'm just sewing. I'm going to just give it a straight line with a little curve, and I'm gonna go all the way around. I'm not looking for any precision, and I'm going to stop right on that next line. And you can see here, I'm starting to get an effect of a spider web. And then just continue to do that all the way around your quilt, and keep going up every few inches, and continue to do that to make it look like a web. Here's my quilt behind me. What you're going to need for this project is I've got a roll of Heat and Bond Light, and I'm going to iron that onto my fabric here in a minute. I've got my iron, I've got some pins, I've got a little glue stick of any sort, and scissors. I've got my mat here, and I've got some pictures I have printed out on the internet. I wanted to do a spider, so I printed this little guy out, and I want to do a spider web. Now I couldn't find a big spider web, so all I needed was like the idea. So this is fine. I can just make it as big as I want. I just needed to have something to look at. So if you aren't familiar with the coloring pages online, I just go on Google, and then I just go to coloring pages. Like I might just type in spider web coloring page, or easy spiderweb coloring page, or just whatever the basic words are that you're looking for. Type that in as a coloring page, go to images, that'll bring up all sorts of pages that you can print out, and then you can use if you want to do some raw edge applique. Mine's very simple, so these are for just my little baby grandsons, and you know, they're just very basic. Got all this fabric here, and these are just recyclable fabrics, and all this is just an old scrub shirt that I had cut up. This must have come off some old red shirt that I had cut up, and this isn't even cotton. This is just a piece of white fabric I had cut off something. And then of course I've got my black, and I've got this color, this multi black and white here. So all you're going to need to do here, you're just going to cut your Heat and Bond. Heat and Bond right online. I buy it right on Amazon, and I always have that on hand just to, you know, so whenever I need it. And I always buy it in a big pack. One year I had made pajamas and stuff for everybody. I needed a big amount, and I kept going to the store and buying these small pieces, and that was just not working good. So I decided from now on I was just always going to have a big roll right on hand. So I just trimmed down the Heat and Bond. I lay the white fabric over it, and I'm going to take my parchment paper, and I'm just going to press this down. Mine says no steam. you can follow the instructions to what yours says. They can be all different. Either they're going to be steam or no steam. So I'm just going to hold this down for a second to just get the glue to adhere to the fabric. Now I just did do a video on raw edge applique. It was on another Halloween quilt, and it was little ghost. This is going to be little spiders, and I know I'm doing another one, and I did just show you that raw edge applique, and this is raw edge applique as well. But this one was just, they're just spiders, and it takes you through the whole process of getting that quilt top quilted. So I thought that would be kind of fun to put that video back out. All right. So you press this down, and now pull that paper right off. Letting this one cool, I'm going to go on to show you what I did here. So I took the black and I did adhere that already to the heat and bond, and on that piece I added both pieces here. These are going to be for the lots of different parts that I'll show you as we go, and these ones are going to be basically for the little feet, and I'll show you that as we go. I also did it to some red for the mouth, so I put a little piece of heat and bond on that. And I also did it to some white that was for the spider web hanging down. So with my project, I'm also going to need something to write with. So I forgot to say I do need something that I can wash off my fabric. So I'm just going to use some seamstress chalk here. Some straight lines here, all the way across. And then I'm going to start just connecting them. I'm going to do this with thread once it's on to my quilt top. I don't need to follow anything. I just have to just see how I want to cut this spider web out. So that looks fine to me. I'm going to just angle this. I just had to have some guide. So when I get back to my sewing machine and I'm adding this onto my quilt, I will just draw the lines with my black thread. So the picture was really just my guide, just something to go on. I have all these extra scraps. I have one big bin that I just keep anything that has this adhesive on it. So I can use this for all my raw edge applique. Sometimes you might just need a couple of little circles, and you can pull that right out of a piece that's already made. So if you're new to doing this, once you have your little pile, it's kind of nice because you can always go back to your pile and find colors. Actually, just go right over the heat and bond if you want to. The only reason I don't always do that is because I just don't want it to get glue onto my iron. But on this side, I am on the heat and bond, and on the other side, I'm just on my parchment paper. You adhere that, I'm just going to fold this in half and then in half again. And that's going to give me enough to put my spider on. Now what you're going to do, you're going to lay your spider down on top of your fabric here. A couple of pins in here. And then you're just going to start trimming around. Now it doesn't matter. I'm going to have, see these little feet? This doesn't matter if they're not perfect. It's going to be very roughly cut out. And the reason is because I'm going to be adding applique pieces on top of that. So all you just want to do, you just find your starting point. I'm going to start right here with this little part of the web. I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to add that to the white web. And then I'm just going to cut around these feet. And for now, I'm just going to give it a rough all the way around. There's no precision at all with this project because I'm going to be appliquing all the way around it, and you'll never know if I wasn't right on or where it should have been, you know, where was the foot supposed to be, because I'm going to add pieces to it as well. It's hard sometimes to get up in between here, so you may have to you know, just give it a snip and cut those little, they look like now like little triangles out. See how I'm not even really cutting around it perfectly at all. Just giving it a snip up and a snip in. Pull those out. So I'm gonna leave it just like that. So now I have 4 little pieces here. I'll take the pins out. When you add the heat and bond, it just gives it all that nice stability too when you're cutting it. So you'll have a lot more control than a floppy piece of fabric. Set these aside. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make some mouths. So I'm gonna take my little piece of red here and I'll trim that down, get rid of that piece, and I'm just gonna freehand myself 4 little mouths. And it doesn't matter how you know, you do it any way you want to. You know me, I'm all about freehand. I'm all about free motion quilting, freehand drawing. Just need a little idea and I'll just go with it. So I'm gonna add the 4 mouths right here. See how they're not even gonna be the same? Everything's gonna be a little bit different. It's gonna be very organic. There's not gonna be another one like it. All right. And again, if I cut, see how this piece has heat and bond, this piece doesn't. That's okay. I could just, that's a small enough piece, I can easily use my glue and put some glue on the back of it and put it down. But for right now, I want to cut out some little eyes. So I'm going to use this white. And I'll just give it a few layers here. And that way I can get more out of it. If I have layers, I'm going to cut a few sets of eyes here. So here's one little set. Just for demonstration, I'll show you just like 2 little sets here. And you can make them a little bit different. You don't want everything the same. All right, so now we've got that. Put those here. And then I want to make some long strings so it looks like the spider is hanging. Okay, so you just make 4 of those. And what else do I want? I need to have some little eyeballs. So now I've got that in half so I can just make all these little circles. So here's 2 little eyeballs. I'll set those there. I will take a little row of black and I'll just cut another little row with both. And I'm just going to fold that out a little bit. And I have this black here too. I might just fold that and fold it again. So I can cut through all those layers so I can start working on some little feet. So all I'm going to do, just cut out randomly. I don't know, you can cut circles, you can cut half circles, you can cut them any way you want. I'm just going to make a bunch of little feet. They don't all have to be the same size. You can use any colors you want to. There's no pattern. You just make it up as you go. Whatever you feel like cutting. See, even like this little one. Look, that one's all kind of discombobulated. That's okay. I can still use that. That'll be fine. Assemble one of these little spiders. So here's the little spider. He's plain. What I need to do is start attaching everything to him. So I'll start with the eyes. You're just going to peel off the back of the paper and start adding your little eyes on yours. Now this one, I don't really feel much heat and bond. So I'll take my little glue stick here and I'll put a piece of paper underneath it so I don't get any on my ironing mat. And I'll add that right onto my spider. And I'll take one of the mouths. Now, what you can do, if you can't get the paper off, it's really hard. I wouldn't even bother to try because it's just always so hard. You just give it a little score. Score it with your scissors or a pin. Open that up and add a little mouth. What I'm gonna do is start adding my little eyeballs. All right. They're very easy to lose, so you want to like kind of keep everything lined up. Especially these little tiny pieces. Okay, I'm going to add that right onto my eye. Oh, that one's already ready. And you can put them googly, you can do whatever you want to do. So far, here's how he's looking. Now, you can have them all googly eyes, or you can have them even. You can do anything you want there. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and press right now. I need a little, my paper here. So I'm just going to press that down. And it's easier for me to press more often than not. If I lay out all the pieces and I try to press them, I always find some move and I get really, it messes everything up on me. So I'll do it after a few. And I have quite a few here before I pressed. So now I'm going to start with the feet. Now I think I've got these feet and these feet. I think on this one, I'm going to go ahead and add the little black feet. Yeah. So I'm going to score all these. When you're making them, for like if you're making a whole, all 4 of these, cut out all the feet at once. Do everything like an assembly line. It just makes it really easy that way. Have all your colors, together and start setting them right up, and you can just make a line and keep on going. It really is easier to just give it a quick score than to sit and try to pick and pick and pick. All right, so you can put your feet on anywhere you want to. You can even change the colors up. I'm going to keep, like one will have black feet and one will have the multicolored feet. This is that one I was telling you that had that little, wasn't cut very good. It's okay because look, don't even notice it. All right, I'm going to give that a little press. One thing about this is because these feet are going to be off the fabric, they're going to land on my pressing mat. Put a piece of paper underneath that and then cover it, because you are going to get glue all over your mat. So maybe in my next video, you're going to see I have a recovered mat. Maybe I'll have to make a video on that as well, because I just did that. I don't know what I was thinking. Okay, there it is. I'll give that just a second to cool down, and I'll show you my mat. It's got a lot of glue on it. Well, I may have to redo my mat. Just press your applique wherever you want it. So here's my spider web. So there's the lines I drew on them, but I ended up cutting it up a little bit more than what I showed you. I just didn't like the way that it looked that time, so I just cut off some more of the edges. So here's how it looks now. All I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna do a wide zigzag. I'm using black. I'm using my vintage thread again, and I'm just gonna outline this. I've got my gloves on because I need to push my fabric through. It gives me way more control, and I know I'm not quilting it right now. I've already done the quilting, but it still gives me so much more control than if I didn't have my gloves on. Go ahead and give it a little back stitch, and then you can just cut your thread right there. Now I'm just going to sew it with a regular straight stitch. I'm just going to follow and come down from point to point, from point to point, from point to point, from point to point. That's basically where my lines are. Not quite, because I retrimmed it up after I had drawn the lines on. I have this all rolled up because it's easier to maneuver that way. So when we go point to point, just go ahead and give it a little back stitch there, and then just go point to point. I just want to intersect right here in the center. And give it another back stitch. Now all I'm going to do, I'm just going to make a couple of, webs here. I'll start right here, and I'm going to just come down and then up. Down and up. Turning as I go. Down and up. And one more here. Down and up. Do up here, I'm going to start with this is the actual, where the spider's hanging. I'm going to just try to take a really wide stitch on my zigzag, and I'm just going to come right down all the way across it. On some of them, it will be enough. As you can see, this is enough. It's hitting both sides. Okay, so here's what he's looking like so far. Now what I need to do is I just need to tack down this mouth. I'm going to just do a straight stitch here. And I'm just going to outline it. I had said that these little quilts for two of my little grandsons, and they're both into like spooky little, they love saying the word spooky. So they're going to be so thrilled to have these little quilts. So what I'm going to do, I need to make sure I have the word spooky on their little quilt. And when I go to put my label on the back as well, it's going to have something to do with spooky. So all I'm going to do is take my chalk. I'm going to take my piece of my black fabric that I had ironed onto the heat and bond, and I'm going to write the word spooky. I'm just going to freehand. And by the way, that glue did come off my ironing mat here, so I was happy about that. So I'll just write the word spooky. So here's my word spooky. So now what I'm going to do, I'll just cut this out, and I am going to press this onto my quilt. This is how my word spooky came out, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to just press this down. I'm going to put it onto a piece of white fabric though, because I want it to be pretty bold. And I've got, the heat and bond on the back of this white one as well. I'm gonna lay my paper on it so I don't get any more glue anywhere. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go over to my sewing machine and raw edge applique that down. Here's how my quilt came out. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and remember to keep it simple. Have a nice day. Bye. Here's how my two spooky quilts came out after I did all of the raw edge applique and after I quilted them.